Welcome back to the Alpha Evolution. I'm your host, Coach Justin. And today's episode, we're going to talk about Valentine's Day. And it's funny. Like I was doing some research, so I wanted to find out how much money was spent on Valentine's Day. And I read in 2021, $23.9 billion was spent on Valentine's Day or prior to Valentine's Day or whatever. Now, I'm sure that some of that was spent by women, okay? But that still doesn't take it out of the billions, all right? So maybe the point 0.9 is reduced, or maybe it's reduced to 20, right? So let's just say 20 billion. Fuck, we could even say, let's be really generous and say that 15 billion was spent by men. The rest was spent by women. Now, of that 15 billion, how much of that do you think was spent by simps, and how much do you think that was spent by finessers? All right, because finessers will do whatever's necessary. They I guess can sometimes be considered tricks or whatever, but I really don't know the difference between a finesser and a trick. But I do know that finessers are generally good at what they do, and so it requires a certain level of knowledge and skill and precision to be a good finesser at anything, really. But when it comes to women, excuse me, these guys know what the fuck they're doing. Like a finesser knows that he's a finesser and is good at it, because then if it didn't work, they wouldn't do it. So what it is like, for the most part, the the bulk of the money, I would say, right? Because finessing is a skill that is developed. That's not the norm. The norm is, blue pilled beta simps, right? Conditioned guys. And people don't really understand this, that these kind of dudes, though they may not realize it, they are deceptive salesmen, right? They are these guys who are out here trying to show women that they are someone that they're actually not, largely because their intentions aren't crystal clear. A lot of these guys, they want a couple of things, and it's on different levels to this. There's levels to this. So on one level, they just want sex. They really just want, like, you simpy guys who are like out here trying to, like, be this superhero for women when it comes to romance and shit like that. It's really just so you could get ass. Because I promise you that if there was something about, like, women were out here saying, hey, we don't want that stuff, we don't even like romantic stuff, they wouldn't go forth and do these things. They would say, oh, really? You just give us sex without any of this stuff? And that's where these guys fall short, right? Because that isn't announced, and women do pull in this stuff because let's be real. It as a woman, I'm sure it feels good to be given gifts and treasures that they didn't exactly earn, and given time and energy and romance and things like that, simply just for showing up, simply for giving a nice guy beta dude a chance, right? So that he feels lucky, right? So so I go on to say here that but here's the thing. Most of these dudes, right? Most of these guys that are in this mode, in this socially conditioned mode to placate after women, especially on Valentine's Day, they really, it's gonna surprise you, but they really don't like women. They really don't. They don't really care about women. They only care about satisfying their own need for validation. Essentially, women are being used because these guys are subconscious. Check this out. They're subconsciously projecting a mommy archetype onto them. So that because they've not cut the umbilical cord, so to speak. They've not grown into men. So what happens is, all right, typically a person who has nice guy syndrome, the pattern is that they have been raised by a single mother. They don't, or if they do have a male in their life, he hasn't been quite influential on him, right? He's been of what I call a wet towel. And so he doesn't he grows up learning to win the affection, approval, and understanding from their mother. And if this never is severed, okay, if he's never grown past this and has never cut that umbilical cord, so to speak, then he's going to keep that framework of how he deals with the concept of woman. And he's going to carry that through his adult life. And he's going to keep trying to do the things that society's also conditioned him to do because it's very capitalistic. The system makes tons of money off of simps, tons and tons of money. If you look at Hollywood, you look at literature, you look at clothing, you look at just all the shit that is associated with mating of men and women. There's so much money involved in this shit. So of course the system doesn't want guys to wake up, right? They profit off of guys who believe all of this stuff. And of course, on the back end, like, women enjoy it, albeit like these gifts and these treasures and the time and energy is very surface level, right? And these guys have this issue, this attachment issue that they haven't either recognized, because a lot of dudes may not even know that this exists, and then they will just keep acting out based on that, not realizing that they're really just searching for approval from their mother. And it's not like they didn't get approval. Sometimes they don't, but it's more so that it's a framework by which they've learned to operate, and they're just continuing operating within that framework. So, in other words, the reason why they're doing this sort of thing is so they can get a little pat on the head and be told you're such a good boy, essentially getting the approval from women, coupled with the hope of getting sex as a reward. Okay. So they don't ever really see the woman for who she actually is, nor do they even care to, right? Or they don't even have the skill to do so, even if they cared. And the weird part is that this is extremely Oedipal. So if you don't know about the Oedipus complex, just Google Oedipal complex. It'll take you down some Freudian rabbit hole. But it's let me just pull this up really quick, and I'll just read you like a quick definition for those of you that don't know about it. The Oedipus complex. Okay, so the Oedipus complex is a concept of psychoanalytic theory. Sigmund Freud introduced the concept in his book in 1899 and coined the expression. In Freud's original formulation, the Oedipus complex is a purportedly universal phase in the life of a young boy in which he hates his father and wishes to have sex with his mother. These wishes may be unconscious. He later expanded this idea into the claim that both boys and girls are subject to the Oedipus complex, with different results. Boys experience castration anxiety and girls experience penis envy. Sometimes the term positive Oedipus complex is used to refer to a child's sexual desire for the opposite sex parent and hatred of the same sex parent, while negative Oedipus complex refers to the desire for the same sex parent and hatred for the opposite sex parent. Freud considered that the child's identification with the same sex parent is the successful outcome of the complex. If unsuccessful, it may lead to neuroses. And these neuroses, I would say, show up with nice guy syndrome, okay? Neurotic behavior, trying to do all this extra shit just to win the approval of a woman, really? So you see how these are, like, if it goes a lot deeper than that, but so I implore you to go online and just do a little bit of research on the Oedipus complex. It's not rock solid, but, it makes sense in the narrative, right? So what happens, sorry about that little bit of audio. So what happens is these guys, they basically use women as a means of getting at a particular drug that's in their mind. There's like this Like the drug can actually be accessed within them, and they're using women as a catalyst. All right. So essentially, the woman, it's funny because they'll say like, "Oh, I like this woman, I like this girl," and what's really happening is that she is just a vehicle, and that vehicle could be anyone. It really could be anyone. And he doesn't really care about her. She is just taking place of girl, right? Girl of interest, right? Girl who I am to prove myself to. And it really could be anyone. That's the fucked up part about it. The woman of his desire, the woman of his interest, could very well be any woman that catches his fancy, and he will use her in for the same vehicle. So he just kind of takes this lady of interest, clicks her into the formula, and then uses that to extract the drug that's inside him that seeks for that validation. And it can go into like these vicious circles because she's going to accept things at first, right? Because it feels good, right? It pumps up the ego, makes you feel great about yourself as women, and they lap it up, okay? But then after a while, the it becomes a problem, right? After a while, the woman starts to lose respect for this kind of guy because he's just giving, giving, giving. And part of her, this is just an idea of my own, but part of her, I think, knows that he's not the right kind of guy, that he's using her, but it's also hard to get rid of him. It's hard to drop him because he's got nice things. He's giving her nice things. He's giving her attention and so on and so forth. But she's not getting turned on. Okay, so there's a variety of feelings because, truth be told, women do want these things from the men that they're actually interested in, the men that they actually desire. And largely, we all know that like a lot of the guys that women desire don't go off and do these things. Now, I would say that that's only a half truth because a man who's about his shit and knows what he needs from a woman and is able to lead a relationship, he will be able to reward her with the nice things on the basis that she does what he needs to be done. Or what she does, what he needs her to do. So he's always having a filter for which she can pass through, right? So that's why it's really important to live by a set of principles because this acts as a shield. This acts as a filtration device, which allows for proper behavior to come in and improper behavior to stay out. And when you do that, it's wise, okay? Because you don't need to do this, but it ends up like if you're interested in having a long-term relationship, it's important to reward the good behavior. So you can't just like sit back, bark orders, be like, hey, you don't do this, do that, and have to constantly put her to the test. And you're just sitting back like, just do what I say. You can do that, but that causes the relationship to have a limit, right? Because after a while, she's going to start to feel neglected. She's going to feel unappreciated and so on. So if you do have an interest in this woman, she's passing through the filters, make it known to yourself, like, hey, like recognize what she's doing and then show her that you recognize it. And that's when you are free to give gifts, give signals of approval, give whatever you feel is, your style of giving that is appropriate for the action, right? So the values are equal. So I wouldn't say go over the top, but I wouldn't expect that for someone who's already at this stage in their understanding of how to be with women, right? So I think it's just really important to understand that if a woman is following your program, that you reward her in kind with a value to her that you feel is equal to what she's doing. And you're just going to have to feel it out. But it's really important. And because that creates positive reinforcement. And if you do this over time, she's going to want to, if she continues to see value in you, she's going to want to do more. She's going to want to prove herself to be part of your program. And that's really important. All right. So just fellas, understand that you are conditioned. You are conditioned to be a simp. You are conditioned to be a beta male that just gives all of his shit to women, from his mind, his emotions, the things that he has in his life, and so on and so forth. And yes, it's true that you know that guys get the same things from women without doing much of anything, just talking to her. That's about it. And she sleeps with him, gives him her attention and her devotion. So you got to ask yourself, what is he doing that you are not? Or what is he not doing what you are doing? Right? Because I'll tell you this, the secret to a woman's attraction, arousal, and devotion largely has nothing to do with what you have as a man. It has everything to do with your behavior. And if you can't sort that out, you really need to, because that is the turning point. Once you understand that your behavior has an effect on her, then you need to really start looking at your behavior. But here's the hitch. You'll never figure it out if you stay right there, sitting in your chair, on your laptop, or on your phone, watching videos like this. You actually need to go out and approach women, interact with them, get into conversations, go on dates, sleep with them, but don't get attached to the situation. And see, like, when you screw up, look at your behavior. Like, not forget what she does, but don't put so much emphasis and attention to what she does. Just notice, like, okay, her attraction's dropping. All right, what have I been doing the last like week in her midst, or like over the phone, right? Say, oh, sex is kind of like, she's less enthusiastic. What have I done? How has my behavior changed? And you can't sit here and say, oh, well, I've just been the same the whole time. I haven't done anything different. That's a lie. You really need to be honest with yourself. Stop lying to yourself. Because when you do that, you divert the energy onto her and you start blaming the woman, when you should know better. You should know that she is just a responsive creature, right? Like I've mentioned flowers in the window before. If you have a potted flower, say that something that has like a head on it, say like a daisy or something along those lines, or I don't know, a lily. If you turn it, sit in the windowsill with sun, you turn it away. After a while, the flower will want to turn towards the sun so that it can get that light. It's responsive. If the plant doesn't do that because you have the curtains drawn, you don't blame the plant. You don't blame the flower and say, what the fuck, flower? Why aren't you turning towards the sun? Right? It's not the flower's fault. It's just responding to stimuli. And women are exactly the same way. And a lot of weak motherfuckers out there will say, well, women have a responsibility too. It's true, they do, up until the point that they're interacting with you. They have responsibility when they're single. Well, they have responsibility when they're single. They have responsibility to their own lives when they're out and about, to remain healthy, to do good, make good choices, and so on and so forth, and to vet proper men. That's where their responsibility comes into play. But their behavior, when you start interacting with them and they start giving you, like, in varying degrees, their devotion, the responsibility is up to you. It now shifts the burden of performance. I know you guys fucking hate that shit, but it's the reality of life. The burden of performance falls 100% on the shoulders of a man. If she's losing interest, it's because of you. If she's drying up in the bedroom, it's because of you. If she's not responding to your messages positively over in text message or whatever, it's because of you. You are the sun. If you've got a curtain drawn in front of you, or you've got some dumb shit going on preventing that light going to her properly, she's going to turn away. It's just the way things are. Don't complain about it. That's just life. Trust me, you'll get more out of spending more time in front of the mirror than looking at women and talking about their behavior and blaming their behavior and yada, 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 yada. It's a waste of time and a waste of energy. Get away from that nonsense. Become a better dude and start understanding behavior of women through your behavior. So, about Valentine's Day, do what you want. Do what you want, okay? I'm not telling you what you should do, what you shouldn't do. But it's important to understand what your motivations are. If you just want to have sex, then you need to learn how to market yourself that way and to be direct with your intentions and your desires with women. If you're too afraid to do that, well, then you've got some internal things to work on first, don't you? If you truly enjoy going out, spending money, having the company of women, then do that. But understand what your motivations are, what your intentions are, what you want to get out of it. I've gone on dates where I've just wanted to have the company of a woman. I wasn't feeling very horny. I didn't really have a deep interest in sex, despite her looking good. I just wanted to hang out with a woman, enjoy a couple of cocktails, and have a nice, flirty, fun conversation. That's what I wanted to do, and I've done that. I did that last night. She could have had sex with me. I really wasn't interested in giving that to her. I just wanted company, and it was fun. I enjoyed myself, spent a little bit of money, had a nice environment, had great drinks, great conversation, walked her home, and that was it. So it's really just about knowing exactly what you want and being okay with what it takes to make those sort of things happen. All right. Now, could I have said, let's just go out and have a conversation and like not have drinks? Sure. But I like a cocktail, and I'm sure she does too. Right. So I bought us cocktails. So really just understand what your motivations are, understand your intentions, whether it's wanting to go out and have a good time, whether it's desiring sex, but just please make sure that you understand the costs involved in that. And sometimes it's a financial cost, sometimes it's a time cost, sometimes it's the cost of being honest with yourself, sometimes it's the cost of the person not being interested because you're just like, hey, you know what? I think you're really attractive. Let's just get together for a little bit and see, what the vibe is and see what, what we can get going on. And then you invite her over, right? Maybe, you should have a couple bottles of wine in your home already. You should have a white chilling in the refrigerator, and you should have red chilling, in the cupboard or whatever. Okay, you should always have a red and a white on hand at all times. But that's for another time. Anyways, just watch yourselves out there. Watch yourselves, especially when it comes to this Valentine's Day. Because especially around this time, the ladies are going to suck it up even more so than they already do. And if you're not aware of yourself, you will be used. And understand that when you're this type of beta, simpy kind of guy, you're actually using her too. So it's not very healthy. It's not elevated. It's not fucking masculine. And you really just don't know what the fuck you want. And you don't know who you are. So start there. All right, gentlemen, have a great day, and I'll talk to you soon.